fissa i limiti di produzione al di sopra dei 200 metri sul livello del mare.
All right, everybody. That was a nice, lovely, relaxing way to get into the spirit of this tasting event. So today's event is being put on by the Abruzzo and Molise Heritage Society, and with us we have the president coming to speak. So if they would unmute themselves and introduce the society, that would be great.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Ray Labragetta. I am president of the AMHS, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to introduce this event. Every year we have a wine tasting event in November. It's one of our most popular events, one of our best received events. This year, of course, we can't do it in person, but I'm thrilled at what we've been able to come up with as a substitute. And so I'm really grateful that Veni Vini Amici, Mr. Yanuck and Beth, and their company has solid experience in presenting wine-themed educational lectures, and this one is going to be no exception. So welcome everyone, and I would like to, I don't know if Mr. Valerio is following, but if he's not, I would say that well, per I nostri amici in Molise e non solo, vi do il benvenuto alla nostra degustazione di vini, un evento che si svolge ogni anno. Quest'anno, voi sapete ben quanto noi, non lo possiamo fare fisicamente di persona, però sono sicuro che lo compenseremo con una presentazione informativa, divertente, interessante. Right now, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our Vice President for Programs, Nancy DeSanti, who knows a little bit about Veni Vini Amici and Stephen and Beth, and she will get us into the program for today.
Thank you, Ray. We're very happy to welcome everyone to our virtual event this afternoon. A big thank you to Chris Renneker, who put us in touch with our speaker, Stephen Yanuck, to Maria and Andrea Yothers, who did so much to help organize the event, and to Peter Bell for doing the hosting honors. Before we turn to this afternoon's event, I would like to mention that we have another virtual event coming up this coming week. For those of you who liked our virtual talk last month with world famous photographer Tony Vaccaro, we will have the chance to participate in an event marking Tony's exhibition opening just prior to his 98th birthday. The November 20th event will be hosted by Tony's Santa Fe, New Mexico gallery reps. So watch for coming details. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, although we regret, as Ray said, that we cannot meet in person at Casa Italiana this year for our very popular wine tasting event, we are happy to be able to offer this virtual event. And we appreciate members of the Washington Winemakers Group joining us virtually this year, and we thank them for all the years they have made our annual event so popular. So this year, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, AMHS's annual event will be a virtually guided wine lecture and tasting hosted by Veni Vini Amici, including an interview with Molise producer Antonio Valerio, live stream from Italy. Our host, Stephen Yanuck, has been conducting educational wine-themed lectures since 2018. Both Stephen and his partner, Beth, have received certificates in wine education and continue their education and studies of the vines. Since March 2020, they have held monthly streaming tasting lectures. Their passion for wine and desire to bring good vibes to the world helped them become a 2020 Wine Spectators video competition finalist. Congratulations. The Italian portion of the event will be live streamed from Monteroduni in Molise, where Antonio Valerio's family, as he said, has been making wine since 1836. Along with the 14 hectares of vineyards at Campi Valerio in Monteroduni, the family cultivates olive groves as well as raising cattle and sheep. Antonio will be speaking to us in Italian, but there will be an English translator on hand. Antonio Valerio describes this land as, quote, a place that must be cared for with the heart and soul, end quote. He has been leading a renaissance in wine from Molise, with 60% of production being exported. His focus has been on quality and bringing an authentic return to native grape varietals and classic viticultural techniques. At the end of the event, there will be 2 breakout sessions with an opportunity to ask questions of Stephen or Antonio, who will take questions in Italian or English. Thank you.
Wow, that was an awesome introduction. I mean, thank you so much.
Well deserved.
So yeah, so the lecture, we're happy to be here.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, can you click on that? Okay, so before we get into this, we are streaming this and it is being recorded. So if everybody could mute yourself during the formal portion. And then at the end of it, we are going to have breakout rooms like we were discussing. So you should get a pop-up now that is going to ask you 3 questions. The first one will put you into an Italian-speaking breakout group. The second one will put you in like a more, if you really are enthusiastic about learning more about like the wines and want to ask some really nerdy kind of questions, select the second option. And if you're just an enthusiast that's just happy to be here, please select the third one. So I believe that should be popping up now on your screens. Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah, so you want to just
move this. Feel free to please ask questions into the chat, and we will try to get to those as well if we are able during the formal portion of the event. So please use the chat.
Yes. Yes, please mute yourselves if you could. Okay, so we are, I mean, I don't think we even need to introduce ourselves. That was more of an introduction than we were even planning on doing. But so we have done guided tastings in person, and now we've taken it virtually and developed our skills along the way. And so we're really happy to do not only our virtual lectures, but now these Meet the Producer events. One of the things that we really try to pride ourselves on is delivering more than just a sipping tasting notes thing. We really try to explore the earth and the soils and the grapes and the history and the culture, the pop culture, the art, everything that is around the wine as well as the wine itself. And today is no exception. Today we're going to be talking about the land of Molise as well as the grapes. Oh. One second. Okay. As well as, you know, the work that goes into the vines, the grapes and the soil, the grapes again, and even close. It's such a beautiful picture of these really wonderful grapes that go into the wines that we're drinking today. And speaking of that, we are going to be drinking the wines eventually, but feel free to kind of drink as we go, taste the different wines and develop what you kind of get out of the wines in terms of not only the fruit as well as the secondary, the tertiary flavors, but the feel, the mouth feel, the body, the weight of the wine. We're going to be talking about the people of Molise, right? And of course, the host that we have today, Antonio. So Antonio was born in Molise. We already heard a great introduction to him. And so, Antonio, if you could say some opening words, we'd love to hear from you.
First of all, hello to everybody, and thank you for hosting us. It's a pleasure for us to be here. Vogliamo sapere se tu vuoi condividere qualche pensiero o qualche cosa con loro.
Sono d'accordo con la stessa risposta del quiz. Sono contento di essere qui.
No, nel senso che vogliamo sapere un po' del tuo background.
Sono architetto,
hear me, Stephen?
We can hear you. Yes, we
Oh,
can.
great. Sorry, we weren't sure you could hear us.
Oh, yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
So if you would like to give us a little bit
We
of
don't know
background.
what else to add. You gave us such a great introduction. Basically, what I can add is that Antonio left Molise in 1993 to become an architect, and then turned his passion for wine into a business and has never looked back. Originally, the winery was a cooperative, and it's obviously been renovated and retrieving the region's history and bringing it back into the limelight. Like Lynn Sorbaras mentioned, he has revived the viticultural territory and given each of his wine a historical or cultural significance.
Fantastic. You know, with that architecture background, I kind of feel that when people go off and do their first careers and then they turn to wine, a lot of them come from fields of engineering, architecture, these types of really meticulous, detail-oriented backgrounds. And, you know, to really get the sense of the detail that goes into making great wine. So how has that kind of been translated into Antonio's wine production?
He was just saying that his passion for the earth, the soil, and agriculture stems from his family, who were originally farmers. So he was literally drawn back to his roots. Io voglio sapere come hai applicato le tecniche dell'architettura e applicati
Con progettualità, cioè con la visione.
And the architecture gave him the structure, the vision to create everything, obviously, from scratch.
Che l'architetto fa, diciamo, c'è una cosa che lega l'architettura con che una casa, diciamo tra virgolette, una casa di qualità.
Puoi farti anche sentire perché ci sono delle persone che parlano italiano, credo.
Ok, una casa di qualità. Io ho legato l'architettura con il vino semplicemente con la capacità di invecchiamento che hanno l'una e l'altra.
Okay, so the thing that architecture and wine have in common is that they can age, basically.
No? Qual è la cosa che ha valore in assoluto nella vita? La cosa che ha assoluto valore nella vita è quella cosa che è capace di invecchiare.
Okay, so the things that have most value in life are the things that have the capacity to age.
E quindi quando io ho iniziato a fare dei vini, ho visto che nella mia terra c'erano dei vini che avevano una grandissima capacità di invecchiare.
And what I've noticed about this terroir is that there's great potential.
Oh, could you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're unable
Yeah.
to hear you.
I
We can
also
hear
can't
Antonio
see
perfectly.
the young lady that's speaking. I have a hard time hearing her and I can't see her. So is there-
Antonio's voice is coming through very clearly, by the way.
I think
well, I've had my computer on as loud as I can and I still having trouble
Okay.
hearing.
okay, can you hear us better
Anybody
now?
else?
Is it clearer?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see
Are
me
we
better,
still-
Nancy?
We
I don't
still
know.
can't see you.
You're in frame there. You're out of frame. Okay. Oh, perfect.
Oh, here we are.
Wonderful.
Yes, we can see you now. Thank you.
Well, I was saying, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Antonio was saying that he spotted the potential in the area, in the terroir, for growing grapes that had the potential to age extensively. Bene? Okay.
Quindi devi discutere il concetto della capacità di invecchiare, sia del vino che dell'architettura, perché l'architettura tu se fai una casa, diciamo, di qualità è quella casa che ha capacità di invecchiare negli anni, no?
Okay.
Però è come la casa che ospita le vite delle persone e poi le racconta. Così è il vino. La bottiglia che ospita il vino, che è capace di invecchiare, e quindi...
Okay, so he's made a comparison between a building and a bottle of wine, and their ability to contain and to tell a story. Molto creativo. Very creative.
That's
wonderful.
wonderful.
Yes. Cool.
It's really through doing all the study of this region. It's great to hear that he went and then came back to Molise and is bringing not only this desire and dream of creating something like wine, but he's also providing an industry that is needed, that can really kind of bring people together and help enrich the Molise area.
Of course, absolutely. Enrich the economy as well.
Yes.
The local economy. Such a small region. Absolutely.
So, so speaking of enriching the region, we've pulled up a couple of the plots of land, and you gave us such wonderful pictures of that. If you'd like to talk about the specific plots and maybe what's kind of grown on them, that would be great.
Right, so we have Colle dei Limi, which is in Miranda. Dire qualcosa su di loro. This is a vineyard that's 560 meters above sea level. We grow Tintilia, which is our indigenous grape variety here, and Falanghina. Obviously, as you can see, it's protected by the forests around it. And the soil absorbs those flavors and bestows them to the grapes that we grow there.
Colle dei Limi, nel nome proprio Limi, significa limo, quindi argilla, no?
Okay, so in the name, as the name suggests, limi is lime, which suggests that the soil is very clayey.
Lime, diciamo, il limo ci fa ottenere dei vini molto raffinati.
Okay,
e
so
molto longevi.
It brings about grapes that produce wines that are very refined and with great longevity.
Per ogni vigna, il progetto di campi, no? I campi sono questi vigneti e ogni vigneto ha una sua specifica identità.
Okay, so each of these parcels of land have a unique, specific set of
specifiche identità.
Identities. They have their
Perché anche a
very
distanza
distinct identities. Even though they're near each other, they all have different properties.
No? Noi stiamo nel Molise interno, negli Appennini, e quindi praticamente nell'Appennino che c'è la montagna, cioè che la dorsale appenninica delle montagne del centro Italia, in montagna succede tutta la magia. È nella montagna che succede tutta la magia, perché tu in ogni punto.
Okay, so it's the mountains, it's the Apennine Mountains that make the difference.
Perché ogni punto, no, è diverso dall'altro,
Because
anche a distanza di pochissimi metri.
Every point is different from the other, even at a short distance from one another.
Per l'esposizione, per
as far as the expositions are concerned, and climate, and also the soil.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, one of the things that they highlighted was that, this plot of land is 500 meters above sea level. And so for people that are familiar with Molise, you already know this, but if we have some people that aren't necessarily familiar with where Molise is, if you pretty much go, east of Tuscany, it's right in that middle part of Italy, right on the Mediterranean. And so that kind of that forest protection as well as the elevation, kind of gives you guys a little bit more protection for the grapes.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Those are some great plots of land.
Conditions, yes.
Fantastic. All right. And so now the next plot, if you want to talk about that one.
Yes. This is Vallone del Mulino. Giusto? Sì.
Sì. E questo è vicinissimo a Isernia. Questo è un vigneto urbano, no?
Let's say that we could say that this is an urban vineyard. It's right near Isernia. This is also 560 meters above sea level. And here we grow our indigenous Tintilia mountain grape variety, which flourishes here due to its microclimate, giusto?
Sì.
Ok.
E quindi un'altra cosa che devi dire è che qui ci sono delle forti escursioni termiche, cioè dal giorno alla notte noi abbiamo addirittura in primavera, anche più di, in primavera o in autunno, più di 20 gradi di differenza. Allora l'escursione termica è importantissima per la pianta, perché la pianta per proteggersi dall'escursione termica deve sviluppare delle sostanze che poi diventano profumi e sapori.
So here there's a great difference in temperatures. So as to protect themselves, the vines have to produce
Tipo terpeni, cioè sono delle cose molto delle sostanze tecniche, esatto, per difendersi dal giorno che ha 20 gradi.
From the day where it's very warm at the night time when it's very, very cold.
Quindi praticamente produce queste sostanze che queste poi chiaramente fanno il vino fresco, profumato,
fresh and
flavors.
Lots of flavors and wine.
E la notte, quando arriva il freddo, allora, perché è importante avere l'escursione termica? Perché queste sostanze, soprattutto di zuccheri che vengono prodotti di giorno, poi la sera restano e restano accumulati nella pianta, perché la pianta di notte dorme.
Oh, we can't hear you. Sorry.
We're saying that this is important because they produce a sugar during the day that
perché la notte il giorno li trattiene
so they contain it with
la notte li trattiene perché è freddo. Okay. Tutto quello prodotto di giorno, la notte è freddo e viene il vino praticamente non gli fa consumare lo zucchero che ha prodotto di giorno. Quindi, quindi
so basically they produce the sugar during the day and it's contained, it's protected overnight. Okay.
Right.
Infatti, molti pensano che i vini sulla costa siano molto ricchi di zucchero, invece no. Sulla costa, siccome continua a fare caldo di notte, praticamente gli zuccheri continuano a essere consumati di notte.
Okay, so you're saying that contrary to popular belief, wines that are produced on the coast aren't as sweet because they use up the sugars that they produce during the day at night. There isn't such a big difference in temperature. Okay.
So we call that the wine term is the diurnal effect. So during the day we have this really hot sun based on the location close to the equator, and then at night, because of our elevation and then the microclimate around it being on hills or in valleys and surrounded by the trees, we have a chilling effect. So during the day, the grapes have so much sun in order to ripen, and then at night, the sugars that are produced help turn into acid and really help the acid structure develop in the grape while it's maturing, and it really gives these complex flavors and this depth of wine. That's what makes a lot of Napa and Sonoma really popular, is great diurnal effects, and so that's what that's what you're talking about, and that's absolutely wonderful to hear.
Can't wait to try it.
Can't wait to.
Where are we now? Allora Valle del Mundo.
So now we are
San Nicola. Yeah. Yes. Quadro San Nicola.
E questa è la sede storica dell'azienda, no? Cioè, qua c'è il casale dove noi abbiamo preso stemma come simbolo.
So there's quite a lot to say about this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. This is only 290 meters above sea level. There are 7 hectares of vineyards. This has recently been restored to its former glory. It's built on the remains of a Roman catacomb. And it's unique both for its history and its microclimate. It's currently being refurbished and will soon be ready to host tastings and visits. Also, our company crest was inspired by the stately home that we've recently refurbished, which is domiciled on the estate grounds. It was built in 1836 by a noble family, and the Valerio family have adapted the monograms to accommodate their initials. They've personalized it, and it's now become the company crest.
Very cool.
That's wonderful.
It will be lovely when it's finished.
We'll have to go visit.
Yes, we'd
You
love
have
to
to come and
come.
visit. Yes, absolutely.
All right, and so this is the last plot of land, if you wouldn't mind saying a couple of nice words about it.
Sant'Angelo. Okay, this is 350 meters above sea level. We found written evidence that grapes were cultivated here as back as the 1st century before BC.
Wow.
The vines are approximately 70 years old. And here they're protected by the Apennines and the Mainarde mountain ranges.
Very cool.
That's so. The history is
the
amazing.
history is so old. It's
rich
amazing.
in history, absolutely. Such a rich area. It's very little known, but very rich in history, absolutely.
Yeah, this region has had a lot of cultures kind of take home here, and a lot of cultures as they go. The soldiers would take grapevine plantings with them and plant them as they go, because you can't we don't have the same import export like we do today. So if you want to get some wine, you have to go back to the village where you planted some grapes a couple of years ago and pick up the wine. And so this is that's how we get these grapes from so long ago, is the soldiers migrating around. Very cool. And so this is the crest. As before we get into the Fannia, the crest that we see on there, there's a pretty awesome story with it. Would you mind sharing that?
There is, absolutely. Both Fannia and Calidio interrelated, really. Fannia is 100% Falanghina, and it's harvested in the area of Monteroduni. Vogliamo raccontare la storia di Calidio e Fannia?
La presenza dei romani come prima, no?
Right. The names are derived from an ancient Roman tombstone that was found in a nearby vineyard, and it is currently housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris. So it's an object of importance for this area, which we're trying to bring back to the region with the help of a famous historian, Mary Beard, who's helping us out trying to bring it back to Molise. It offers a deeper understanding of Roman history in our region, and it would be brilliant to acquaint the locals with part of their history and heritage. It's probably one of the earliest comic strips in history.
Yes, there is some humor.
It's humorous. It's humorous.
Di solito i romani usavano queste lapidi di questa dimensione solo per motivi funerari, no? Erano delle lapidi.
Certo, no.
Yeah, so now I've seen
La presenza del vino dal primo secolo avanti Cristo, questa è l'importanza di Calidio.
Yes. It demonstrates that wine was produced in the area as far back as the Roman times.
That's very true. They do discuss wine in the humorous comic strip tablet that has transcended the ages. Now, I've seen the pictures of your wonderful tasting room that you're constructing. Is there any chance that you would be able to get this from the Louvre and showcase it there? A lot of times with art and wine, they go so hand in hand, as well as these art. And a tasting room just presents such a natural display for art and history icons such as this. Is there any chance that you would be able to get it in your tasting room?
I don't really think so. It would be fantastic, but as you can imagine, they're incredibly strict, and it would have to be housed in our local museum. Unfortunately, chiedevano se, hai capito, se potevamo, ma loro si riferiscono al tasting rooms al casale o a quello attuale? Non lo so.
Di poter venire qua?
Sì, di portarlo qui. Lo stele.
La stele, ma tu consideri che questa è 2 metri alta? Sì, no, al museo.
Gliel'ho detto. Yeah. Antonio was just saying that it looks very small there, but it's about 2 meters in height.
Wow.
It looks compact, but it's actually huge. Obviously, as you can see, we've used it for our Fannia label. He's managed to recuperate a lot of the history and put it into his wines, which is fantastic.
It is so cool.
It is. So now we're going to get into our tasting portion of the Fannia wine, and it's the Falanghina.
Have ours here.
Yay!
Excellent.
All right, everybody, cheers!
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
So the tasting notes that you see up on the screen right now are just suggestions of what some wine experts kind of say are typical of the Falanghina grape. But, you know, so much is different, I think, with the way wine is produced and whether you, you know, how you treat the grapes, both in the field as well as you produce it. And so...
And the terroir.
And the terroir. So
where it's grown.
maybe none of these tasting notes are in there. Maybe all of them are. So we're gonna dive into that. You know, when we smell this, it kind of smells a little bit like a Chardonnay. Maybe not like an overly oaked Chardonnay, but it has that freshness to it. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
It smells delicious.
Yeah. I do get the citrus blossoms on it. So people that are on the webcams, you know, we'd love to see you guys kind of milling around and everything. If you can kind of resonate with any of the tasting notes here, if you could give us like a thumbs up, right? It would be great.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
And feel free to share any thoughts in the chat as well.
Well, here
we go.
Now, one thing that is super amazing is that this has not seen any oak, right?
No. It's all
it just has this
child, just 100% vinified in stainless steel.
It has such a wonderful body and great acidity complementing with it. It's so just mouth-coatingly wonderful. Such a very high quality grape goes into this, and it's amazing. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this grape and this wine.
Non è medium bodied.
No.
Ok. Quindi come lo vuoi descrivere?
Sì. Vedi il colore.
So it's full bodied. Questo va bene?
Sì, full bodied.
Can we give a description, a brief description?
Sure, that sounds great.
Right, okay. For us, it's full bodied with a core of minerality. And it's a wine that can be enjoyed on its own or with lighter dishes to be fully appreciated. Corretto?
I definitely think so. Like with pairing this like with like a white fish. So that way the body of, like, if you went with a tuna, maybe the heavy body fattiness of the tuna with the weight of this wine would kind of compete for each other. But if you had like a lighter white fish with the body of this wine, you would just have such a wonderful juxtaposition between the two that it would be a wonderful tasting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We went on to a Molise tourist website and kind of picked up some wonderful pictures. We love showing pretty pictures in our tastings.
We can't be traveling right now. We try to show a few images so we can all pretend that we're on a trip.
Right, and so one thing to take into consideration with the Molise is that we have all the way from beaches up into the Apennine Mountains where in the wintertime people are skiing, and so you get this really a good sense of you whatever kind of travel enthusiast you are, you can find it here.
So we have a series of images of some of the beautiful sights.
Absolutely, you're bringing us back to summer. It's actually cold and dark here. I don't know about you guys, what the weather's like at your end.
It's getting a little bit chilly here. Yeah, the leaves have fallen.
This is Termoli, which has lovely wide sandy beaches, and what else is it? It has an active fishing harbour still. and an old fortified town to explore. There's also a castle and a cathedral to visit.
Oh, that's super cool.
Wonderful.
It has great
Quello là che
climate.
vedono, quello là, è diciamo, è un antichissimo luogo che usavano i pescatori per pescare, si chiama Trabucco.
Okay, so this, as you can see, the pier is an ancient, what is it? It's called
È un
Trabucco,
luogo
where
che i pescatori usavano per pescare.
where fishermen used to go fishing.
È antichissimo. Oggi non si usa, oggi sono diventati ristoranti.
Okay, they've now become restaurants, basically. They've all become restaurants, but that's what they were originally used for.
Sono dei luoghi tipici dell'Adriatico, non
And
esistono
these
in altri mari.
These are very specific to the Adriatic coast.
Very cool.
Okay.
This picture is it kind of just it shows the sheep paths. So evidently outside of the in the heart of Molise, there's a lot of naturally created paths for hiking enthusiasts and bikers, and so I've read about, and so if you can shine some light on it, that like tourist people are really trying to motivate this idea of going on hiking tours and biking.
Yes, it's become fashionable. That's right. They're just mountain grassy paths that shepherds used to use to take their sheep herds to the mountain, from the mountains of Abruzzo to the Apulias.
It looks beautiful.
It does. Wine always seems to grow in the most beautiful places on earth. I mean, this picture really captures it. And as people who like to say that we are now tourists, we get to go out to these places, drink amazing wine, go on some hikes, some biking, and really get a sense of exploring the land while we're out and about.
Absolutely. Molise has more or less everything. It has the sea, it has the mountains. There's a lot to do, even though not many people know about it. Absolutely. Antonio has 2,000 sheep himself.
Oh, fantastic.
Amongst other things, yeah. He has his own sheep. Oh, I see you've got the amphitheatre in Pietrabondante.
Does anybody ever perform there currently? Because that just seems beautiful with the backdrop of the mountains.
Allora, qua fanno dei concerti, fanno il teatro a 1000 metri, si chiama d'estate.
Yes, they do. They do. It's called a teatro at 1,000 meters because that's its height. And they hold those in the summer, obviously, because it's not covered. But it's fabulous. And it's also been an inspiration for our sparkling wine that you asked about, but I didn't send you pictures, unfortunately. I'm not sure if you have anything on your on the website that you managed to see. It's called Ox Contiva.
We were able to pull it off of your Instagram, so thank you for that. We will talk about your future endeavors and what you guys are really kind of bringing, to the advancement of Molise.
Well, this goddess was worshipped in this amphitheatre, so that's why Antonio dedicated a wine to her.
Fantastic.
Perché questo è un anfiteatro sannitico ed è l'unico a essere sannitico, gli altri sono tutti romani.
Okay, so Antonio was mentioning that this is the only Samnite amphitheatre. All the rest are Roman, built by Romans.
Oh, very neat.
And they already had ergonomical feet. Incredible.
Si vedono le prime 3 file, vedi?
Yes, you can see it in the
la spalliera,
first
la schiena, vedi? Sta fatta in maniera che...
rows of feet. Absolutely. I'm not sure if you can see the shape of the feet. They're actually ergonomical.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Incredible.
How wonderful.
Again, hopefully we can go out there and see it for ourselves one day and
Yes,
experience
yeah.
it.
We'll have to come and visit and we'll take you around all these places.
That sounds
That would
great.
be wonderful.
And again, this place has so many ancient roots. So I don't know do you want to talk about this a little bit? Do you know what this is?
Dice che il luogo ha delle radici molto antiche.
Sì, ha delle radici molto antiche perché del Paleolitico.
Okay.
perché
one of the first Paleolithic settlements was found in Isernia. It's called La Pineta.
il sito paleolitico del Guado San Nicola, quello è un sito paleolitico insieme alla Pineta. Loro possono trovare tutte su internet queste informazioni, però tipo il Guado San Nicola sta proprio, il vigneto sta proprio su un sito paleolitico.
He's mentioning that Guado San Nicola, our vineyard in Guado San Nicola, is also positioned on a Paleolithic settlement.
E quindi praticamente noi abbiamo il primo insediamento umano d'Europa proprio qua, cioè il primo insediamento umano d'Europa sta nel Molise.
So basically they found the first...
Il secondo, non è il primo è Neanderthal, il secondo è...
After the Neanderthal, it's one of the first settlements in Europe that Paleolithic settlement.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Antonio was saying, have a look on the internet. It's all on the internet. But yeah, it's very rich in history.
Wow, yes.
The Molise region has such, amazing history that when you do get a vineyard, you have to have it kind of excavated, or not excavated, but there's kind of a search that happens before the vineyard goes in that checks to make sure that there aren't a lost city underneath of it, right? You have to kind of do something to make sure there aren't any major artifacts.
Indagini prima di costruire il vigneto per accertarsi che sotto non ci sta.
Però le pratiche agronomiche posso fare fino a 70 cm. Io fino a 70 cm posso lavorare.
Okay, now Antonio was saying that up to 70 centimeters, he's able to work the soil, but no more than that.
Perché fino a 70 cm, quello che c'è fino a 70 cm può derivare dalle altre parti.
Okay.
Quello che c'è sotto i 70 cm.
Without touching anything that's underneath that could have some kind of historical importance.
That is an obstacle that not all vineyard producers have to deal with.
Certainly not.
But that's also why the stately home isn't ready yet, because it's been difficult getting permission, to carry on the work, unfortunately. But we're nearly there.
Very cool. And then the last one is this beautiful sanctuary in the wintertime.
That's right. This is the sanctuary of Castel Petroso, which was built.
Tutto è stato realizzato tutto con le offerte dei fedeli.
It was built entirely with the donations made by the local people.
Wow.
And as you can see, it's a neo-Gothic style.
Diciamo che
Being an architect, Antonio is going to be pedantic.
Però
but that's generally the style.
Però è un risultato straordinariamente originale.
Yeah, it is very original. And it was built because there was an apparition of the Virgin Mary in 1888. So beautiful. It's very striking, even if it's not perfectly Gothic, as Antonio would say.
No, it is incredibly.
But that became an orphanage, correct? Was that a...
Orfanotrofio?
Sì, vicino sì.
Yes, nearby though, not the actual building, but there's a building nearby that also, it's an orphanage.
I have a cousin who came from that area there, so.
Wow.
That very orphanage.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Fascinating.
Antonio, mio papà è di Roccamandolfi.
You speak Italian.
Mia madre di Roccamandolfi, vero? Mia madre è di Roccamandolfi.
Ok.
Come si chiama tuo padre?
D'Andrea. Lucio,
Mia madre si chiama
Giuseppe, sì. Candida e Gaetano D'Andrea, sì.
Ah, ma mia madre si chiama Andrea pure.
Sì.
Antonietta.
Sì. Lo conosco. E 3 anni fa ho visitato Campi Valerio con mio amico Alberto e
Ah,
ho
sì, 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 sì.
conosciuto a Giuseppe, che madre lavora
Maria.
con la mayor of Roccamandolfi.
Sì, sì,
Ok.
la sorella di mamma. Oddio.
Wow.
Che spettacolo. Devi tornare adesso. Devi tornare adesso perché l'azienda è cresciuta.
Sindaco.
Anche io, sì.
Sì.
All right. Well, that's
Bellissimo. Bellissimo.
very good. I'm glad that this could really kind of bring some history and some story back to people's lives. Like this is a wonderful event. I'm glad to be here and connecting everybody.
Likewise. Dici che è bello connettere tutte le
Sì, 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 è la cosa più bella in assoluto. È la cosa più bella che mi è successa con il vino. Sono entrato nelle case di tutti.
The best thing about producing wine is that he's
Could you speak up? a
I'm
little?
sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear you.
sorry. Antonio was saying that the best part of producing wine is that you get to go into everybody's house, basically.
E conosci le storie di tutti, conosci le storie di emigrazione, conosci le storie di persone che conosci il mondo.
You get to know everybody's story, emigrate abroad, and the world, basically.
Sì.
Il mondo.
Con il vino ti fa conoscere il mondo nella sua, in una veste bella, nella veste più bella. Come devo dire? Come glielo dici? Vabbè, così.
But wine allows you to meet people in the best possible way. Bene?
Bene.
That's very true. And
Yes.
wine helps connecting people like in a way that's just so carefree and wonderful.
Il vino unisce.
Yes,
Yeah.
he agrees.
Non lo potremmo fare davanti a una salsa di pomodori.
He said it's not something you could do with a passata sauce.
Very cool.
Allora, dove siamo arrivati? Adesso ci tocca vedere che-
So the next two grapes that we have, or the next two wines, I'm sorry, are Montepulciano. And so, you know, here we have kind of what people say are the typical tasting notes of Montepulciano. And one thing with that we need to recognize is that we are going to be tasting one that is only stainless steel, and then one that has some oak notes to it. So it has seen some oak aging, and we're going to kind of explore the differences between the two of them. And so typically we get some plums, some black raspberries, and blackberries. What's that? Thyme,
Dried herbs.
dried herbs, some cooking notes, or some cooking spices, baking spices, and maybe some mesquite, especially on Montepulcianos that's seen some oak aging. And so the first one that we're drinking today is the Calidio, and I really, really appreciate the lightness of this because it's been in stainless steel. It really allows some, fresh flowers and some herbaceousness, some like fresh grass to kind of come through with it, along with the dark cherry. And
this is a grape that you'll often hear of from Abruzzo, and it can often be a bit more bolder in fruit, but this one, I think you can pick up a lot more of the obviously it has fruit, but the non-fruit flavors, some of those, the floral and minerality. And
exactly, there isn't this sense of rustic approach to this. This really is fresh and high quality. You can smell the quality of this, that the grapes are hand-picked and that care has gone into this wine when it's in the winemaking process.
well, so hopefully if you have it in front of you, you get a chance to taste. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. And so now, would you guys like to say a little bit more about the Calidio grape? Cheers.
It's very
Delicious.
much
So good. It's so
the
good.
same as the story behind Fannia. They're both inspired by the ancient tombstone that we found, that was found in the nearby area. Like you said, it's 100% Montepulciano, aged in stainless steel. And che altro vuoi dire sul Calidio, Antonio?
Che è un vino più fresco degli altri, è un vino d'annata.
Okay, so it's a very fresh wine. It's ready to drink.
Ed è diciamo, invecchiamento in acciaio ci permette di riconoscere il vitigno, cioè si sente proprio il Montepulciano.
Okay, seeing as it's aged in stainless steel, Antonio says that it retains its flavors. Giusto?
Sì.
It retains the flavor of the Montepulciano grapes.
I think that's absolutely true. That really showcases just how wonderful that grape is, especially on your plots of land. It really gets the sense of terroir.
It has so much structure.
So much structure.
That's lovely.
Which I do think that level of structure is really helped in the wine making process, as well as just from the fields themselves.
Absolutely.
So hats off to you, sir. This is a fabulous wine.
Grazie.
Thank you. You'll have to try the 2017 vintage.
Very much. Okay,
I'll have
sure.
to send you some.
That sounds great.
That sounds wonderful.
We'd love to.
Vogliamo dire che James mi ha fatto...
So we kind of touched on this at the very beginning in our wonderful introduction to you guys, that you have 60% of your production is shipped internationally. And so that's a pretty impressive number. So how do we get from, Antonio sitting in his cellar with these wonderful wines all the way to the shelves? Today a lot of people were able to pick up the wine from Calvert Woodley. So how does, and we've even seen, these grapes or these wines listed on, restaurant menus. So how does that happen?
Right, allora Antonio vuole sapere come hai fatto ad ottenere questo 60% di esportazione all'estero.
Viaggiando con l'aereo.
So as you can see with the aeroplane, Antonio literally got on the aeroplane and went to visit all his friends and restaurant owners. And he's scared of flying.
Oh no!
So he had to make a huge effort, but he did. And apart from that, obviously the various international wine fairs that he's attended over the years. And we have to also thank Ilham for her very good hard work in marketing these wines.
Yeah, that is the importer to the United States that they just referenced. She's been an integral part of connecting, making sure that this whole we were able to get the wines restocked at Calvert Woodley, because people bought the entire supply out of the store and then they had to resupply everything. So that's fantastic. I'm glad to see that there was so much participation.
Negozio che sta dicendo l'hanno dovuto ricomprare. And we didn't know that.
Non lo sapevo.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Perché hanno finito tutto, benissimo. Excellent.
And before this whole thing, I reached out and sent what the general structure of the Meet the Producer event was to the general manager at Calvert Woodley, and they said that they could, they would try to see what they could do. And they never got back to me, but they also took $2 to $3 off of all of the bottles from Campi Valerio at the same time. So, maybe it was just a coincidence, but, if they did anything to help us out, thank you so much, Calvert Woodley. We appreciate the discount. And
hanno coinvolto questo Calvert. Vendono i nostri vini e li volevano coinvolgere in questa, però non hanno partecipato all'intervista, però hanno tolto una percentuale.
Perfetto.
I was just translating to Antonio. Excellent.
This is such a fun experience for me. I mean, I'm getting to talk to a wine producer that's 6 time zones away, and we have to translate in English. I just think this is such a unique experience, and thank you again so much for your time.
My English is not enough to explain everything. I know about 2,000 words. And I just saw 10 words.
He does start speaking fluent English after a couple of glasses of wine.
He'll speak as good at English as I can at that point in time. We'll meet in the middle. You know, one of the things that you commented was that you were able to get on a plane and fly to your friends that were, you know, in restaurants, and they tasted your wines and they put it on the menu. And of course, we can attribute that to just the quality of these wines for the price point. I mean, when I tasted these wines for the first time, I couldn't believe how good they are at the price point that they are. I mean, I'm recommending that my friend who's getting married in the spring, that he uses these wines for, you know, his rehearsal dinner, just because they're so wonderful and they go so well with food. But I think one of the points that I'd like to is that in this wine industry, you really have to have friends in order to get noticed. People that will listen to you, that will try your wine. And that's awesome that you had those connections in the, you know, at the restaurant level.
Anche al giorno d'oggi avere delle connessioni, delle persone, delle conoscenze per avere successo. E poi diceva che non credeva al prezzo dei vini in base alla qualità, che dice che è ottima e che lui. Okay, as far as the price quality ratio, Antonio says that was the strategy that he used.
Perché abbiamo poi Pentro, per esempio, che costa
because we also have Pentro, which is one of the smallest DOC designations in Italy, that was mentioned earlier. Obviously, he has a quality over quantity approach, producing only around 100,000 bottles a year.
Wow.
Wow.
And yes, they are great value for money.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That's fantastic. All right. And so one of the other things is where Campi Valerio is going in the future. And we're not able to try all of the wines because you guys have a Montepulciano Rosé, like we said, the Ophelia, that is the Tintilia native variety grape, and then an assortment of bubbles that you guys are making. And I want to try them all. It just sounds so cool that you're doing such unique things.
We'll send you them.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
And then we'll have another wine tasting session.
Yay.
Hopefully in person.
One of the other things that I was so pleasantly surprised to hear was when we were kind of talking about what are the talking points that we're going to have for this, you know, this lecture. You guys mentioned that you guys are moving to these amphora style vessels in order to put your wines into, so that way they don't get those oak influences. And it's a very ancient and natural way.
The wine is unadulterated because the terracotta doesn't bestow any flavors. So yes. Wonderful experiment that will be released. Was meant to be released earlier, obviously, but with the pandemic, things have been put on hold. Quando uscirà la lana? In 15 days. In a couple of weeks' time, it'll be released. It'll be released in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. For everybody listening, like one of the things that's really interesting is that we can go back to these ancient techniques, like, you know, the amphora, because we have such cleanliness in the wine production now that just didn't exist before. And so we can still get high quality grapes that can have, you know, bottle aged and they don't break down because of how the wine is made versus, you know, back in the olden days. And so
a lot of wine went bad a long time ago. But
in some regions of the world, they would actually take these amphoras, fill them with wine, and bury them. So that way the soil around the amphora would kind of insulate them from the climate around it. And so it's really awesome to see that you are using this ancient vessel of holding wine in a way to, you know, kind of let the grape show itself to us in the bottle.
Absolutely. The grape is the protagonist in this situation. In questo modo è protagonista l'uva, giusto, perché non gli dà alcun tipo di sapore.
E permette la microossigenazione.
And it also allows the micro it allows the oxygen to enter. Microcyclic oxygenation. No. Oxygen. We'll get there in a minute.
Yeah, the control of oxygen inside when wine is being produced is so important.
Yes.
It's a fine balance for sure. Okay, and so now we're moving on to our very last grape of the evening. So this is the Montepulciano as well, but it's seen a little bit of oak. And so if you'd like to explain what the symbol is that we're looking at that's on the label. You guys have a story for everything.
We do.
I love it.
Absolutely. This place, the name pays homage to the unspoiled area, obviously where we cultivate these vines. It depicts the coat of arms, which denotes the ancient Contado di Molise. The name was actually invented by Prince Pignatelli, who resided in the area in the 17th century. And I think that's about it.
Very cool. Well, I guess this is our tasting notes that we kind of got from this wine. Just kind of jumped right into it. So everybody at home, if you could give us a thumbs up if you get any of these tasting notes. So we have some blackberries, some currant, which in the United States we actually can't have currant.
Yes, you cannot grow it here.
Yeah, it's an invasive species. But in our wine journeys, we've been able to experience it through candies and such. So we've had a little bit of experience, but it's that basically if you can't quite put your finger on the fruit, but you know that it's like a red blackish kind of thing, that's likely currant. We have some plums, maybe a little bit of vanilla coming in from that oak aging that we have, and then definitely these dried spices, herbaceous spices.
So cheers.
Cheers again.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So delicious.
Sometimes I like to have the narrative of like, this wine, when you compare two wines side by side, you're like, this one's could be better with sitting around, a fire. This one could be better with food. I think both of these Montepulcianos are beautiful in their own way. That you can enjoy them by themselves. You can enjoy them with food. They're just so versatile and amazing.
So tasty.
Si sente il lavoro della botte, capito? Sente il legno. Cioè non si sente il legno perché sennò è sbagliato. Però si sente l'invecchiamento, il passaggio al vino.
So yes, if you would like to comment on this science.
Yes, Antonio was saying that there you can taste the cedar wood. The hints of cedar wood.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's rounded and it's well structured. Mature fruits. Whilst Calidio is very fresh, this is rounded and mature. Mature fruit. Vaniglia ci sta?
Vaniglia ci sta, ma tutti di bosco.
Forest fruits. Yes, that's more or less your description. Spot on.
Excellent.
Fantastic. All right. So I believe, yes, that concludes our formal portion of the lecture. And so, thank you so much for your time. And we hope that you stick around. And we're going to do a little breakout room and people can ask you some questions.
That would be fantastic.
Fantastic. That's great. Again, these are our respective slogans. And, when I looked up what your slogan was, I just loved that wine, our mottos are very much about connecting with people through wine. And I think that's why this interaction of working with you has been just such a pleasure and a wonderful experience. So thank you.
Absolutely, it's been un piacere, vero? We'd also like to thank the Abruzzo and Molise Society for participating. It's lovely to meet you all.
So at the end of the breakout sessions, we will come back for like a 5-minute just meet and greet again. So at this point in time, if our moderator could please break us out into.
All right, Stephen and Antonio, while we did take the polling questions, I wasn't able to see who answered which way. So what I would like everyone to do, all right, is if you answered that you wanted to speak with Antonio in Italian, go down to the chat section and just put the number 1. Just type in the number 1 and leave it that way. If you answered the question that you said you were a wine enthusiast, then just put in the number 2. All right. And if you were just, hey, I'm just glad to be here, then don't enter anything. And I will put all the 1s together with Antonio, and I will put the 2s in a second breakout room. Stephen, I'll stick you in that room. Okay. All right. And then the rest of us will just be in room number 3. Okie doke.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Fantastic.
And so for those of you,
so the polling thing worked, and yet I wasn't able to see whom was who. So just go to the chat, put your answer in the chat.
Okay.
All right. I'm getting some information there.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And so for those of you that are on YouTube, we are going to be ending that stream at this point in time. But thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. It really does help kind of promote the wine connection with everybody else. And we hope that you enjoyed this broadcast on
It was
YouTube.
awesome.
All right.
Molto buono.
I don't know. What do I?
Go to chat.
Okay, so that part has ended. All right, let's drink. Woo!